This animation begins by showing how mean Byzantine soldiers are. They like to hurt people, steal their stuff, and even make some people into slaves, especially black people who are weaker. Then the scene switches to a small village where a black boy named Bilal and his younger sister, Euphara, are playing. Sadly, their fun ends when the Byzantine soldiers attack their village. Their mom, Hamama, quickly hides them in a cupboard to keep them safe. But she has to face the soldiers and sadly, she doesn't make it. After their mom dies, Bilal and Euphara are sold as slaves to a really rich guy named Umayyah, then Caliph in the city of Mecca. Even though life is tough, they stick together and help each other out. Every day they have to do whatever their new boss tells them, like getting water from a well in the middle of the city. As Bilal went about his day, he passed bustling markets where people sold all sorts of things like cloth, dates, and even statues because in Mecca, people still worshipped idols. As he walked by the Kaaba, where people prayed to these idols, Bilal noticed a sneaky priest wearing a mask. This priest was tricking people into giving away their money to prove their faith in the gods. But Bilal didn't believe in those gods, so he kept his only coin to himself. Meanwhile, Umayyah's son Safwan was practicing archery with his guards when he spotted Euphara walking by. He ordered his guards to capture her, because he wanted to use her as a target for his archery. Just as Safwan was about to shoot at Euphara, Bilal rushed to protect his sister. He was ready to fight Safwan to save her, but Euphara stopped him just in time. She apologized to Safwan for Bilal's behavior because she didn't want her brother to get in trouble with Umayyah, who was known for being very harsh. At the same time, Umayyah was busy selling and buying slaves when someone came to tell him that Bilal had gotten into a fight with Safwan. Umayyah hurried home and demanded Bilal come forward so he could punish him. There, Umayyah warned Bilal that if he ever attacked Safwan again, he wouldn't hesitate to kill him. And Bilal, feeling powerless, stayed quiet and accepted whatever punishment his master gave him, even when Umayyah's men whipped him. Meanwhile, Umayyah scolded Safwan and told him to toughen up so he wouldn't be embarrassed by a slave like Bilal. After the beating, Bilal tried to soothe his wounds with water, but it only made him hurt more. He thought about his tough life and remembered his mother's words, urging him to break free from slavery. Sadly, he felt hopeless, realizing he had no one to help him escape his chains. While lost in thought, Bilal was surprised by Euphara, who was concerned about her brother's condition after the whipping. She suggested they worship idols to seek help and escape their suffering as slaves. But Bilal refused, explaining that idols were just statues made by people and couldn't really help them. He believed if gods truly existed, his life wouldn't be so hard. The next day, while working, Bilal stumbled upon an unused horse stable with a white horse inside. Curious, he tried to ride the horse and eventually succeeded in taming it. From then on, Bilal would often ride the horse when he had free time from his slave duties. As he grew older, he became skilled at riding. One day he met his friend Sahad, who was a talented archer. At that time, Sahad suggested Bilal escape from Mecca and become a free man. But Bilal felt trapped, knowing Umayyah was too powerful in Mecca and could easily find him. After spending time together and practicing riding, Bilal said goodbye to Sahad before Umayyah could track him down. On his way, Bilal noticed a poor boy trying to steal coins meant for idols. Knowing that the Quraysh would punish anyone caught stealing from idols, Bilal stopped the boy and gave him food instead, so he wouldn't get into trouble. Soon after, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, a wealthy merchant and friend of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, approached Bilal and commended him for his kind act. Abu Bakr saw Bilal as a courageous person because he refused to worship idols despite the pressure, even though many slaves were forced to do so to avoid punishment. Abu Bakr didn't see Bilal as just a slave but as an equal human being, even though Abu Bakr was respected in Mecca. During their conversation, Abu Bakr talked about Islam's teachings of equality among all people, which intrigued Bilal. He wanted to learn more about Islam, which was being taught secretly. Sadly, Bilal had to leave quickly before his master got angry for being late, so he couldn't ask Abu Bakr many questions about Islam. When Bilal got home, he helped his sister prepare food for a big party Umayyah was hosting to welcome his business partners. During the party, Bilal served all the dishes to the important guests, who were top officials in Mecca. They talked about business and whispered about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was quietly teaching new things to the people of Mecca. Suddenly, Umayyah called Bilal over and asked him to sing for the guests, because Bilal had a beautiful voice. Even though Bilal didn't like singing in front of so many people, He had to obey his master's command. Later on, Mecca faced a dry season, and some people didn't have enough clean water. They went to the Zamzam well in the city center to get water. But Umayyah and his men stopped them, saying only rich people could use the well. Umayyah even whipped those who tried to take water, right in front of everyone. When Bilal saw what was happening at the well, he tried to intervene, but the guards blocked him, surrounding the area. Just then, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, known as the Lion of God, arrived on his strong black horse. He bravely stopped the unjust treatment of the people being whipped. Bilal was impressed by Hamza's bravery and decided he wanted to become a great warrior like him, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. On another day, Bilal met Abu Bakr on a quiet hill to learn about Islam. Abu Bakr happily explained the teachings of Islam to Bilal. Then, before Bilal decided to convert, Abu Bakr advised him to follow the Prophet Muhammad's example of kindness and goodness to others. Meanwhile, Umayyah and his friends held a meeting because they felt threatened by the rapid spread of Islam in Mecca. As more people turned away from idol worship, their business of selling idols declined. Also, the Quraysh leaders couldn't collect as many donations from the residents as they used to. During a discussion, Safwan interrupted to tell his father that Bilal had secretly converted to Islam. Umayyah was furious and summoned Bilal. When Umayyah questioned Bilal about his conversion, Bilal didn't hesitate to admit it, injuring Umayyah further. He ordered his men to lock up and torture Bilal. Despite the torture and being deprived of food and water, Bilal started to doubt Islam and wondered if worshipping idols would bring in help from God. But he remained steadfast in his faith, enduring days of torture. Once, Umayyah offered Bilal food and drink, trying to persuade him to worship idols, but Bilal refused, unwilling to worship gods made by humans. Umayyah then ordered his men to publicly torture Bilal by crushing him with a heavy stone. But even facing such cruelty, Bilal's faith didn't waver. He remained resolute in rejecting Umayyah's plea to worship idols. Meanwhile, Abu Bakr, feeling pity for Bilal, decided to buy him from Umayyah with some gold. Umayyah agreed to sell Bilal after his punishment was over. Abu Bakr planned to do the same for Gufayra, but Umayyah gave her to Safwan instead, refusing to sell her. This meant Bilal and his sister had to live apart. 3 months later, Bilal was living as a free man, treated like a brother by Abu Bakr. Meanwhile, the Quraysh kept trying to suppress Muslims in Mecca. Eventually, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, invited his followers, including Bilal, to move to Medina for safety. During the journey, Hamza taught Bilal how to fight so they could defend themselves against Quraysh soldiers hunting Muslims. Bilal, determined to be strong like Hamza and free his sister, trained during breaks. After training, Abu Bakr advised Bilal to control his anger, reminding him not to lose himself despite his resentment towards Umayyah, who had tortured him and Gufayra. After some time, the group of Muslims reached Medina, where Bilal was surprised to find that he was already known for his bravery in standing up against the Quraysh. The people of Medina welcomed Bilal and the other Muslims warmly, even helping them build the first mosque in the city, which was not just a place of worship, but also a center for learning about Islam. Meanwhile, Umayyah held a meeting with other Quraysh leaders to discuss the growing opposition in Mecca, especially since the spread of Islamic teachings. They decided to crush all the Muslims in Mecca, even planning to kill slaves who dared to challenge their masters. At the same time, some slaves escaped to Medina and warned the Muslims that Umayyah's troops were preparing to massacre the Muslims in Mecca. Upon hearing this, Bilal rushed back to Mecca to save his sister, and Hamza joined him, knowing Bilal had gone alone. When they reached Mecca, Hamza immediately freed the tortured slaves, while Bilal hurried to find Gufayra. Sadly, Bilal was captured by Quraysh soldiers and brought before Safwan, who informed him that Gufayra had been killed. At that moment, Bilal was devastated by the news, and he didn't resist when Safwan's men prepared to execute him. Just as Bilal was about to be killed, Hamza arrived and saved him. They managed to escape from the Quraysh soldiers and returned to Medina safely. A year later, Bilal still mourned Gufayra's death and felt guilty for not saving her in time. Hamza, knowing how Bilal felt, tried to lift his spirits by giving him a sword, saying that Bilal would need it one day. Meanwhile, the Umayyads were getting ready to assemble a big army to fight against the Muslims. The leaders of the Quraysh wanted to wipe out Islam so everyone would go back to worshipping idols, like before, giving them power over the people once more. When the Muslims heard about the Quraysh's plan for war, they accepted the challenge, leading to the Battle of Badr on the 17th of Ramadan, led by Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim army, with only 313 soldiers, faced a much larger Quraysh force, numbering in the thousands. Before the battle, each side chose 3 of their best fighters for a duel, which the Muslims won. This upset Umayyah, who then ordered hundreds of his soldiers to attack. Despite being outnumbered, Hamza fearlessly led the Muslims, using smart tactics to hold their ground against the enemy. As the Quraysh realized they were losing, they decided to throw all their soldiers into the fight. But then, something unexpected happened. The Muslim troops received help from angels, appearing as white soldiers. Hamza and Bilal fought bravely against the Quraysh, even when they were surrounded. Eventually, Bilal faced Umayyah directly. When Umayyah thought he had Bilal cornered, Bilal surprised him by pushing back and turning the tables. In the end, Bilal managed to kill Umayyah with his sword. Umayyah's death shook the confidence of the Quraysh troops, and they decided to retreat, giving victory to the Muslims. After the Battle of Badr, the followers of Islam grew stronger and more united against the tyranny of the Quraysh. The two groups fought for years, with the Muslims experiencing many losses, including the death of Hamza in the Battle of Uhud. Bilal was devastated by Hamza's death, as he had been his mentor in fighting against the Quraysh. Finally, the conflict between the Muslims and the Quraysh finally ended with the liberation of Mecca, where the Muslims took control of the city and made the Kaaba the center of Muslim worship. Sometime after the liberation of Mecca, Bilal, who had fought in the battle, approached Safwan seeking revenge for Jufair's death. But instead of harming him, Safwan had embraced Islam secretly without his family or Quraysh leaders knowing. When Bilal learned this, he forgave Safwan for his past mistakes and chose to leave him be. In the end, Bilal finally reunited with Jufair and found peace, just like he had always hoped for. In a touching moment, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, asked Bilal to climb to the top of the Kaaba and call the prayer, marking a significant moment in Mecca's history. The animation ends. The moral lesson from this animation is don't mess with a guy who's got a good voice and a sword, or you might end up singing a different tune. And remember, sometimes forgiveness is the best revenge.